All right, hey guys, so in this video, we're gonna be working with parallelograms, but this time we're gonna add algebra into the mix, which I'm sure you're excited about. So I've got this just to remind you, if you turned a parallelogram into a rhombus is a type of parallelogram, but it's a special parallelogram that has 4 congruent sides. Where in a normal parallelogram, only the top and the bottom match, and only the left and the right match. So if they call it a parallelogram, the top and the bottom will be the same, and the left and the right will be the same. If they call it a rhombus, it is a type of parallelogram, but it's a parallelogram where all 4 sides are the same size. Just to remind you about some of the rules of parallelograms. Opposite sides are parallel, opposite sides are congruent, opposite angles are congruent, and consecutive angles are supplementary. So we're gonna need this whenever we're going through to try to solve our problems. And let's just jump into some examples. So in this first example, they ask us to find the value of x, y, and z, and they call this shape a parallelogram. Now it's important that they call it a parallelogram because that tells us some things about the angles. It tells us that opposite angles are congruent. So if this angle is 84, then this angle right here is also 84 because those are opposite. And it tells us that these angles, that one and that one, are supplementary. And remember, that means that they add up to 180. So if this one is 84, then this one, let's see, what number plus 84 gives you 180? That would be 96. So this angle right here is 96 degrees because 96 plus 84 gives you 180. So the question specifically asks you to solve for x, y, and z. So we're gonna have to figure out what number could you plug in for x that would give you 84. Now, personally, I like to just do algebra. If you want to sit around and guess, essentially you would need this part of the number to be 94 because 94 minus 10 is 84. So the answer is gonna be, let's see, 45 times 2 is 90. So probably 47, I think will be the answer. So see, I can do that in my head because I'm pretty good with numbers. But if you aren't as good at numbers and you aren't as good at guessing what x could be, that's why we use algebra. So algebra is going to be where we literally set up the problem. I'm going to equal it to 84, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the opposite operations to figure out what x is. So instead of subtracting 10, I'm going to move this 10 to the other side by adding it. So I'm going to get that negative 2x is equal to 94. And then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. And I'm going to get that x is equal to, oh, sorry, yeah, that's right, negative 47. So x is going to equal negative 47 because if you plugged negative 47 in for x, negative 47 times negative 2 is positive 94, and positive 94 minus 10 is 84. So that's why x is equal to negative 47. Same kind of process over here. Obviously, when you look at a problem like this, you should be able to do this in your head. What number plus 6 gives you 96? Obviously it's 90, but if you didn't know that, you could set up this equation and then you could do the opposite operation to move that 6 to the other side, and you would get that y is equal to 90. So remember guys, algebra is only there if you're not good enough at guessing the answer. It's just a procedural way to find the answer, but you always can just try to guess the answer. The last one is going to be solving for z down here. Now this angle itself is going to be equal to this opposite angle here, so 96. Sorry, 96, because we need this one and this one to be supplementary. So if this is 84, this has to be 96 because 84 plus 96 gives you 180. So this entire angle is 96. So if you have to figure out what z is, you're going to have to make the equation negative 6z equals 96. And then we're going to have to try to work backwards. So if you think about it, negative 6z, this term here, is what you're subtracting 6 from. So this number must have to be 102, because 102 minus 6 is 96. And that's how we're figuring this out. We actually add the 6 to the other side. Negative 6z equals 102. And then we divide both sides by negative 6. And we get that z is equal to, let's see, I didn't do this ahead of time. Negative 6 goes into 10 once, and that would be 42, so it's going to be negative 17. So our answers are going to be negative 17, negative 47, and 90. Now remember, that's us solving for the variables. That's not actually us saying what the angle equals. If they had asked us what does this angle equal, we would say 84 degrees. But they said what does x equal, so we're going to say negative 47. I hope that makes sense. This one asks us to find the value of x, y, and z in the rhombus below. And a rhombus is a type of parallelogram. So in this type of parallelogram, we want to look at what they're giving us variables for. And everything seems to be on the angles here. So again, remember, opposite angles are going to be congruent. And consecutive angles are going to be supplementary or supplements. Same thing here, 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 here. So these two add up to 180, these two add up to 180, these two add up to 180, these two add up to 180. But if they're opposite, they're congruent. So that tells me that this angle right here is equal to 74 degrees. And then these two angles are going to have to equal, what would that be, 106? So if you do 180 minus 74, yeah, so this angle right here is going to have to be 106 degrees. And this angle right here is going to have to be 106 degrees. Because 106 plus 74 gives you 180. And now, because the question asks for the variables, so you're thinking, what number could you plug in for y, where y minus 7 would give you 106? Well, what number minus 7 would be 106? Hopefully, if you think about it, it would have to be 113. But if you're not sure about that, you can make an equation. Y minus 7 equals 106. And then we're just going to move the 7 to the other side. So we would say that y equals 113. Now, I'm not saying this angle is 113 degrees. I'm saying that the letter y is 113. Because when you plug that in, 113 minus 7 gives you 106. Same thing over here. So what number plus 1 gives you 106? That's really easy. Obviously, 105. 105 plus 1 is 106. But if you weren't sure, you would make an equation. And you would follow the opposite rules to figure that out. This one's a little bit harder because you've got a coefficient with your variable here. So what number times 3 plus 5 gives you 74? Well, 69 plus 5 gives you 74. So what number times 3 gives you 69? That's going to be 23. So I know the answer to this is 23. If you can't do math that quickly in your head, that's why we learn algebra. So the purpose of algebra is to set this up, 3x plus 5 equals 74. And instead of sitting there and guessing what the answer might be, we just work backwards. So instead of adding 5, we're going to subtract 5. Instead of multiplying by 3, we're going to divide by 3. And we're going to get that answer as 23. So remember, algebra is only there in case the number isn't something that kind of comes to your head very quickly, like this one, which was pretty obvious. When you've got some more stuff involved, you might want to learn algebra. But you can solve problems without it. It just a lot of times takes a little bit longer. All right, let's see. This one here. Notice the difference. In this problem, we had the little degrees symbol here, degrees, 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 because we were talking about the angles, angle, 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 angle. These are all angles. This problem, we're not talking about angles anymore, people. We are talking about side lengths. That's why this number is out here along this side. Now there is something special about the sides of a rhombus. Sides are, so all 4 sides are congruent, which means that they are equal in length. So if this side's 2, guess how much this side's gonna need to be total? 2. Guess how much this side's gonna need to be total? 2. And this side as well. So all the sides are 2 because they told us this side was 2 and they told us it was a rhombus. So, I mean, this one's pretty darn easy. What number minus 4 gives you 2? Z must be 6. Now, if you couldn't think of that on your own, you could just do the opposite operation for algebra and get that Z equals 6. If you look at this one, what number plus 2 equals 2? Well, hopefully you know that this number total is going to need to be 0. So negative 6 times what would give you 0? And that happens to be 0. So x is going to equal 0. If you weren't sure why that's true, I'll work all the algebra out for you. So you're going to write your equation. You're going to move this 2 to the other side, so you're going to get negative 6x equals 0. And then when you divide by negative 6, 0 divided by negative 6 is just 0. And then lastly, this one over here, what number times negative 10 minus 8 gives you 2? Well, I know that this number right here is going to have to be a total of 10 because 10 minus 8 is 2. So what would turn a negative 10 that you multiply it into a positive 10? So I know the answer to y is going to be negative 1. But if you can't do that math in your head, that's why we have algebra. We're just going to follow the rules. We're going to add 8 to both sides. We're going to divide both sides by negative 10. We're going to get y is equal to negative 1. Ooh, did I say negative 1? I hope so. I don't remember. So our answers to our respective variables are that x is 0, y is negative 1, and z is 6. If you plugged those values in for x, y, and z, you would get that each side is 2. All right, last one. This one here, we're talking about a parallelogram. Now, not a special parallelogram of a rhombus, just a normal parallelogram. So this normal parallelogram, remember the opposite sides are equal. So if this side's 45, this side is 45. So let's see, I would do negative 4x minus 7 equals 45. This one actually, I don't feel like thinking about this. This one's too hard for me to do in my head. So I can just use algebra. I'm gonna add 7 to both sides. It's gonna give me negative 4x equals 52. And then I'm gonna divide both sides by negative 4. And I'm gonna get that x is equal to negative 13. I'm not saying that this side length is negative 13. This side length is 45. But if you plug negative 13 in for x, you would get 45. So that's the purpose. Also, if you look at that next one there, this side is equal to this side. So if this side is 113 units, then this side is 113 units. So I'm going to do some algebra. I mean, I already know that 110 plus 3 is 113. So to get this to be 110, that's going to have to be 55. So I should get 55 when I solve this. So I'm going to move 3 to the other side. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I'm going to get y equals 55. So I hope that in addition to maybe teaching you how to do these problems and apply the properties of parallelograms, I also taught you something a little bit about algebra. And stay tuned for next week or the next video, depending on how you're watching this, where we learn some extra special properties of some other parallelograms. I know you won't be able to wait, so I'll try to get the video up soon. Bye, guys.